South Carolina State and the Citadel meet for the second time this season. The first matchup went to overtime. This time the teams collide inside McAllister Fieldhouse on the campus of the Citadel to open the Cobb, Dill, and Hammett Classic. We're glad you're joining us. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. You can see the starting lineups being announced. Jason, it's rare to have a rematch in non-conference play, but that's the case for these two teams. So when you look at some key players coming into this matchup, you already have a sample size for how they fared the first time around.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. Talking about South Carolina State first, Edward Oliver Hampton. A dominant game in the first matchup between these two teams, 18 points and 12 rebounds. Got it done. Both of those season highs in terms of numbers for him. He's certainly a guy at the top of the scouting report for the Citadel tonight. Meanwhile, for the other Bulldogs, the Citadel Bulldogs, Stephen Clark almost put together the first triple-double in school history in that first game. 13 points, 15 rebounds, just a couple of assists shy. He finished with 8. And it's funny, Clark and Oliver Hampton sort of built that same way. 6'8", not a ton of size on that frame, athletic guys, and perhaps we'll see them matched up one-on-one a few times tonight. Should be a good ball game and an evenly matched contest.
Those 13 points and 15 rebounds for Clark were both career highs against South Carolina State the first time. Mentioned it went to overtime. That's because of a game-tying basket with 5 seconds left by Brent Davis. You see him there, number 12 in white. He'll be in the starting lineup for the Bulldogs. That tied the game, and then the Citadel ran away with it in overtime, 14-2 in that extra session to ultimately win 91-79 overall. We're ready to go. Clark jumps center for the Citadel and wins the tip over Daquan Williams. Here's the full starting five for the Citadel, presented by Roper St. Francis.
And, of course, Hayden Brown at the top of the scouting report for the Citadel opponents every night.
Jason Roach off the front iron. Offensive rebound for Tyler Moff. Davis down the right side of the lane, leans past his man and lays it in.
And South Carolina State switching on the ball screens, and he got matched up with a smaller Rashawn Edwards. Took it right into his chest for an easy bucket.
Here's Edwards with it now. Gives it up to Madlock. Jones pulls up on the baseline and ties it.
And Cameron Jones, the leading scorer for South Carolina State, 11.2 points per game. He had 20 and 7 in the first matchup with the Citadel, a transfer from Jacksonville State.
A couple of transfers, including Oliver Hampton, player we highlighted at the top of the broadcast. He transferred in from Hampton University. That ball is tipped out by Davis, so it goes to SC State. It gives us a chance to look at our keys to the game, presented by Pepsi.
And for South Carolina State, not as great of a shooting team, so they need to control the glass, easy for me to say, and own the paint. Again, a little bit of a size advantage inside at times, and they'll try to take advantage of that. For the Citadel, Hayden Brown fouled out in just 20 minutes in the first game. They need him to be on the floor today against that interior attack. Tyler Moff alone had 6 turnovers the last time these two teams played. Got to value the basketball.
Brown with a defensive rebound goes the distance for 2.
How many times has he done that in his career so far? Get a rebound and bring it the length of the court and finish.
Quick answer by Edwards.
He only played 5 minutes in the first game, but that shot, impressive.
Both teams picking up the pace. Moff misses a 3. Here comes Madlock. Jones, a hesitation for a moment. Now gives it to Krosky. SC State reverses it to the left side. Tough 2 there. Comes up short. Brown another rebound. Roach, clean look, rattles out.
He's certainly due at this point. He had 3 pretty good looks that were right on line.
Madlock, high off the window.
That was the first time South Carolina State really took it to the bucket. They've had a few jump shots in the early going, contested jump shots, and that time Madlock put his head down and would not be denied.
He had 16 in the first matchup. Miscommunication there, and the Citadel is bailed out. Roach threw that pass while Moff was looking elsewhere, directing traffic, but it was deflected. So it ends up staying with the Citadel, but Moff really never saw that pass coming initially. Now he'll throw it in from the far side. Still plenty of time on the shot clock. Moff trips, stumbles. Play continues. Now the timer inside of 10. Moff from deep. How about that for a possession for Tyler Moff?
Well, that kind of was a fumbled possession and nearly a turnover that turned into an advantageous matchup with Clark being guarded by the much smaller Edwards. It forced a double, and Moff stepped into it with confidence.
Once again, an answer. This time, Omar Krosky provides.
And he's already matched his output from the first meeting between these two teams with 3 points.
Fun opening few minutes here of the Cobb Dill and Hammett Classic. Davis draws a foul on Krosky.
Good pace and the ball going through the basket. It's fun to watch, no doubt about it. And you're talking about a Citadel team, the highest scoring team in the SoCon, one of the top scoring teams in the country, coming into this one with just over 85 points per game, 9th in the nation. So you expect to see them put the ball in the basket.
The Citadel shot 49% in the first matchup between these teams. Here's Roach. Misses again. Rare sight to see him miss so many consecutively. Brown will try from the left wing. That comes up empty into the hands of Krosky. To finish that point about shooting percentages, here's Madlock, and he splashes one through. South Carolina State only shot 33% in that first meeting. You look at such a staggering difference in field goal percentages. It's amazing it went to overtime. Traveling violation whistled against Hayden Brown, and it brings us to our first timeout on the floor. A little bit more than 4 minutes in, and South Carolina State leads by 4. Fun start to this one. South Carolina State shooting 71%, 5 for 7, including a three-pointer already. 11 points in the first 4 minutes. We mentioned these teams faced off earlier this year. All-time, 12 matchups between these two schools, not separated very far geographically. South Carolina State hails from Orangeburg, just up the road from Charleston. But it is the first meeting since 2010 until they met twice this year. Jason.
Yeah, and I think those regional matchups, you mentioned you don't often play a home-and-home with another team, but because of COVID and the different way teams travel, I think it has become a little bit more popular this year and then last season especially.
Of all things, when these teams met in 2010, they went all the way out to Las Vegas to do that. A lot easier when you just get on the bus and drive down the highway. A missed shot there from Jamal Davis, but it stays with South Carolina State with 7 on the shot clock.
It might be easier to make that trip, but I think the players probably preferred the last meeting as well.
And the officials are talking right now. We might have a change, and we do. Ted Valentine coming in from the sideline, had a different vantage point, different angle, and after discussing it, the Citadel has possession.
And now we'll see a little bit of a full court trapping press for the first time from South Carolina State.
Davis squares up. Tad long. Ball batted around. Roach tapping into the hands of Davis.
Hayden Brown really wants the basketball with Madlock guarding him.
Moff launches instead, and Cameron Jones pulls it down. Jones accelerates toward the rim, draws a foul on Clark.
And right now, I think you talked about how well South Carolina State is shooting, and they're off to a 5 for 8 start. But I think if you're the Citadel, you're kind of happy with the shots that they're taking. 2 or 3 of those that they've knocked down have been contested fadeaway jumpers, and eventually you'd think the law of averages are going to favor the defense if that continues.
Jones at the line, 67% for the season. First one rims out. Mentioned his 20-point performance first time these teams met. Also mentioned Oliver Hampton had 18, Matlock 16. The other double-digit scorer out of that group was Rakeem Gary with 11, so they combined for a bulk of South Carolina State's 79, with all 4 of them in double digits in that first contest. 1 for 2 on this trip. Here's Jason Roach for 3, and as you said, Jason, he was due 0 for 4. Rarity for him, but now he's 1 for 5.
I wonder how many times in his life Jason Roach has missed 5 open three-point attempts in a row. Probably not often.
Not tonight either. Brown misses, and the rebound for Oliver Hampton. Roach, a pure shooter. If he has a clean look at the rim, he has shown a consistency knocking them down this year, 44% from behind the arc. Meanwhile, South Carolina State continues to tear it up inside the arc as Jones scores again.
Well, you can't let a guy on a straight line drive go from the logo outside the arc all the way to the basket without anybody stepping in front of him. That was a defensive breakdown by the Bulldogs, the Citadel Bulldogs.
Davis leaves it for Clark underneath.
The Citadel starting to probe and get some looks in the paint. Hayden Brown missed a jump hook on the last possession, but starting to get some opportunities inside.
Long 2. In and out for Madlock. Clark to Moff, up the floor to Roach. Clark bluffs the handoff, goes to the basket, and commits the offensive foul. Great job there. Davis rotating and making sure he's positioned outside the arc.
Yeah, and that's a big foul. I said one of the keys to the game was keeping the front court out of foul trouble. Hayden Brown obviously being one of them, but Stephen Clark the other guy, and that's now a quick couple of fouls on Clark. And now we'll see Brady Spence for the first time, but Clark so key in that first matchup, and now likely on the bench for a good chunk here of the first half.
Jerry Higgins III also checks in. He's going to pick up the ball here defensively. He's the backup point guard today. Rudy Fitzgibbons appears unavailable as he is in street clothes on the bench. And so thus Higgins moves up the depth chart once Tyler Moff subs out. Here's Brown into the paint. And Oliver Hampton pulls it down and keeps it in play. Edwards takes it in, brings it into the front court.
Hayden Brown has had some good looks, but South Carolina State doing a good job of contesting without fouling.
Another rebound for Hayden Brown, his 4th of the day. He joined the 1,000-point 500 rebound club last game, just the 15th player in program history to do that. Commits a turnover here, however, as that pass angled into the SC State bench.
Head coach Duger Baucom just kind of telling his charges settle down, motioning with both hands. Maybe a little bit rushed on the initiation of that possession, and what should have been a simple 10 or 12-foot pass bounces off the hands of Davis and out of bounds. Offense has certainly slowed down a little bit during this 4-minute segment.
And that will continue as an offensive foul turns it over to the Citadel. Just 2 fouls on each team. That foul on Omar Krosky, however, and that becomes his 2nd. So each team's total fouls also combined for an individual foul count on each side.
That's good for depth purposes, but not for those 2 individuals.
Yeah. Pass goes through the hands of Brown initially. He recovers, finds Davis. Roach. Spence tapped it for a moment, but it falls into the hands of Oliver Hampton. Now Jones with it. Good on-the-ball defense by Brent Davis. Madlock backs it out to the logo. Long 3 from Jones. Nearly went down. Instead, it falls into the hands of Hayden Brown. Here's Davis on the baseline. Tough angle there. Jones ends up with it.
I was ready to have a witty comment if he hit a 3 from the Respect logo.
Davis makes it from a little bit closer range. SC State by 4. Roach to cut it to 1. Instead, Madlock with a rebound. Here comes South Carolina State.
Well, if you're South Carolina State, you're giving Jason Roach a lot of good looks. They're just not going down.
Madlock stretches it to 6, largest lead for either team so far. Higgins bluffs a pass, drives right, leaves it for Spence, pump fake, one bounce, no. Jones adding to his rebound total. He has 3. Now he has it in the front court against Higgins. Inside to Oliver Hampton, back to the basket. Spins baseline, Brown got a piece of it. Turnover in the backcourt, Madlock forces it, Roach takes it right back.
Oh, Madlock known as a defensive player, and right now without a timeout for a while, both teams exhausted. And that whistle will get us to a break.
Breaking the action here. South Carolina State leading by 6. Carolina State maintaining a 6-point advantage almost midway through the first half. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. Glad you're joining us for this one. We were talking about the hot shooting for South Carolina State. Overall shooting 47%. You see the 3-point numbers there for each team. The Citadel comes in 37% behind the arc for the season, Jason, but well below that in the first 10 minutes.
And everyone knows that the Citadel is a 3-point shooting team, and that's where they thrive. And the fact that their best shooter has had 7 relatively open looks and only knocked down 1, I think the Citadel's going to keep the green light going for Jason Roach, and eventually he's going to start to see those fall if he continues to get the quality of look that he has.
Again, he came in shooting 44% from 3-point range, 1 for 7 to start today's game. Hayden Brown pulls the Citadel within 4.
Well, if you can't hit threes, that's the one place you can go, and you feel like you're going to get a bucket or draw a foul, and they really haven't been able to get anything out of a one-on-one in the post with Brown so far.
This is Davis. Offensive rebound for Williams. Latavian Lawrence into the game, gives it up, baseline jumper. Comes up short for Williams. Now Moff, who has returned during the last timeout, leaves it for Brown, who steps into a 3-ball.
Well, the rebounds have been there for Hayden Brown. He had 7, but the offense hadn't necessarily been there until the last 2 possessions, and all of a sudden he's got 7 and 7, and the Citadel right back in the game.
He's been a double-double machine during his career, but especially last year, 13 double-doubles, was second most in a single season in program history. Williams decides against the initial shot, moves a little closer, and finishes with the left hand.
Well, that's a great finish by Daquan Williams, but how hard did Tyler Moff work running off of several ball screens to keep his man in front of him?
Edwards picks the pocket of Moff, now finds Williams in stride for 2.
It's amazing how much cleaner or up-tempo and clean the basketball is after you get the media timeout than when it's been a long time without.
Yeah, other than that 3-minute break without a whistle. Yes, this is a little sharper, especially from the perspective of South Carolina State. Madlock, another transition bucket, and now the Bulldogs lead by 7.
Quick 6-0 spurt from South Carolina State, and the key there, all 3 baskets right there at the rim. Off of turnovers as well, the last 2 possessions.
Roach finds Brock Wakefield, who's out there for the first time. Wakefield, a true freshman on this team. Finds Moff, the grad transfer. Rebound for Lawrence. Edwards to Williams for 3. Off the right side of the rim into the hands of Spence. Williams had not attempted a 3-pointer on the season. Now a foul brings us to a timeout on the floor. That foul is on Williams with 7:30 remaining in the opening half.
Pepsi.
Fun game so far, 12 and a half minutes in. South Carolina State in front by 7. Of course, we've talked about the first meeting between these teams and the fact that it went to overtime, 91-79 being the final score in that game. But that was a close one in the first half, 33-32 at halftime. Then the teams combined for 89 points in the second half alone of that initial meeting. And they have picked up right where they left off, Jason. Good tempo and some quality shooting.
Yeah, and I think what's been the difference here over the last couple of minutes was a couple of back-to-back Citadel turnovers in which South Carolina State converted, which you'd call kind of a pick-six type of turnover, live ball, leading to a bucket the other way.
This foul is going to go on Rashawn Edwards. Moff throws it in from the baseline. Now Brown off the right side of the rim into the hands of Madlock. Madlock pushes it one more time, this time high off the window. It doesn't fall. Now David Maynard with it. Fresh into the game for the Citadel. Finds Spence on the move. Comes up short off the glass. Second chance. Rebounded by Davis.
Now that's now a couple, maybe even 3 looks from Spence right underneath the basket that he just hasn't been able to finish.
Edwards in and out on a 3. South Carolina State has now missed its last 3 three-point attempts. Brown working against Oliver Hampton. Short. Offensive rebound. Oliver Hampton grabs it. Finds the outlet with Madlock. Now Madlock pulls up mid-range. Short. Davis pulls it in.
Now, as much as the shots fell in the first 4 minutes of this game, it's been a struggle offensively for both sides of late. Really, since the under-12 timeout, it's been a battle.
Sure has. South Carolina State's now 1 for its last 7. The Citadel was 1 for its last 6, but that's a high percentage look for Hayden Brown.
And I think, that basket brings you back within 5, and Stephen Clark's at the scores table. And if you stay attached in this game where he hasn't been out there, Roach hasn't hit shots yet, if you're South Carolina State, you're a little bit disappointed. If you're the Citadel, I think you're happy to be down only this much.
Lawrence, nothing but net for him.
Well, that's not necessarily a big strength of his, but he stepped into it confidently, held the hand in the cookie jar, if you will, and knew it was going down as soon as he let it go.
Only his 8th three-pointer of the year. This is the 14th game for South Carolina State. Shooting less than 30% behind the arc, but he looked good on that last one. Meanwhile, Moff on the back cut comes up empty. Chance for SC State to move it to double digits.
Just a few big possessions again where the Citadel, besides the dunk from Hayden Brown, they've had chances right there at the rim and just can't finish.
Lawrence defers to Oliver Hampton. Spins past Brown, misses. Now with 4:50 remaining, the Citadel will have it, trailing by 8.
And
you see Coach Bauckham out there barking at his guys, trying to get the energy going here.
Sorry, Kyle, that last possession, a good example of why Hayden Brown maybe a little bit undersized at the 4 in conference play and in certain games, but he just stood there walled up, and it looked like the player shooting the basketball ran into a wall, and he's very good at that, and if he can do it without fouling, successful defending in the paint.
Davis flashes by his initial defender in Cameron Jones, and then takes a hard foul at the rim.
Well, when you're struggling to finish, when you're laying it up, one thing you could do is go up and try to punish the rim, and that's what Brent Davis did. And it was a good contest by Jamal Davis. It was an ugly spill at the end of it, but he went up hard and he got fouled hard, but no attempt at any malicious activity there. Went hard for the ball, and that's what happens. I've never been that high in the air, but I would imagine if you get hit up there, that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, it is something to keep an eye on, as there were some technical fouls the first time these teams met. So anytime you face a team twice in the same year, usually it's conference play, so usually those rivalries are already intensified, but This time it's a rematch when there certainly was not the most of pleasantries exchanged throughout the 40 minutes last time out. Davis cashes in at the line to make it a 6-point game. We haven't really seen anything carry over from that first game other than just good energy and good tempo so far.
And now the Citadel with a different look. A zone here as South Carolina State brings the ball up.
Oliver Hampton misses the jumper. Here's Moff. Moff moves past Oliver Hampton on the pump fake. He airballs it, and it goes off Davis out of play.
And Tyler Moff showing a little bit of frustration after that miss. That's kind of where he lives in that mid-range game, and you always feel like when he pulls up from 12 to 15 feet, he's going to knock it down. But something a little bit off about that release, and he missed it too strong. But the Citadel primarily going to play man-to-man defense, but we've seen this throughout the year. Every once in a while for a couple of possessions, they'll go zone. Looks like sort of a matchup zone this time down from the Citadel. They forced a tough jump shot last possession. We'll see what they do here.
Jones drives, reverse, misses. On the floor battling for it is Williams for South Carolina State, and he claims it and calls a timeout. And we will take it with him. So South Carolina State will have the basketball, 10 to shoot when we return. South Carolina State leading in this initial game of the Cobb, Dill, and Hammett Classic. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. Jason, it's interesting when you have an event like this, 4 teams here playing games over the next 2 days. Sometimes you'll see teams, new arena, new setting, especially on the second game, the field goal percentages, but it's actually the home team struggling right now. 26% overall from the floor, only 3 for 16 from three-point range. You see the entire schedule for all of the games tonight and tomorrow. Of course, we invite you to tune into all of them on ESPN+, but this has been an off night for the Citadel thus far on their own floor.
I think you're encouraged by the fact that they've been pretty quality looks, and you got to think that the quality of shooters they have, eventually, if the looks stay the same, they're going to drop for you at some point.
Foul on the drive here. They wave off the shot attempt. So South Carolina State will have the ball on the baseline. And Clark will sub out. That's his third personal.
And that's a tough break. Again, for the Citadel, they put him back in there. Duger Bauckham has talked about he doesn't like to just say, hey, guy's got 2 fouls, he's done.
Yeah.
But that's the cost sometimes if you pick up a third. Now, when do you bring him back again?
Yeah, that's the risk-reward scenario. Edwards drives, tough angle. It hit off of Williams last, so it'll be the Citadel basketball. I do like the way that Coach Bauckham explains that, though. He says if you sit them, once they pick up 2 fouls in the half, for the rest of the half, you basically fouled them out yourself. It's an interesting way of looking at it, but it is a nice philosophy to try to trust your guys, pick some spots to at least play them for a few minutes here and there and let them see the floor rather than just sit them for 12-plus minutes if they pick up 2 fouls. Spence lays it in. He's the primary backup for Clark, and he brings it to 4. Battle for the rebound. Roach ends up with it. Numbers here for the Citadel, but Moff leaves it for Davis. Now inside to Spence, double teamed. He's on the floor, and a jump ball will give it to South Carolina State.
And the interesting part about Clark's foul troubles is that literally he's the only guy in white that's committed a foul tonight. They've committed 3 as a team, and they've all been on him. And you wish that maybe that foul had occurred where there were some other bodies, because then as a teammate, you just throw your hand up right away. But it was out in space, and so he's wondering, what do I got to do here to avoid a whistle?
Only 8 fouls total.
Don't say it.
I already
stop
did.
right there. You
okay.
stop right
All right,
there.
I'm stopped. Lawrence short on a 3.
You did that to us on Thursday. I thought that was enough.
Yeah. I'm a slow learner. Just ask my substitute teachers in high school. Hayden Brown lays it in for 2.
Just softly to the glass, high off the backboard with the left hand, the offhand for Hayden Brown. 11 and 8 in the first half for a guy who only played 20 minutes in the first meeting between these teams.
South Carolina State has not scored in nearly 4 minutes. The drought continues. Strong rebound for Hayden Brown. He's only one rebound from a double-double in the first half.
That's good. That's pretty good.
That's usually a good night. 11 points, 9 rebounds. As you mentioned, perhaps some extra motivation. He only played 20 minutes in the first game between these teams, a game that went 45 minutes because of overtime. Here's Brown on a drive and a chance for three, and the lead thanks to Hayden Brown.
Oh, if we see a replay of this, when he went up and under to try and finish, I think his shot attempt was actually partially blocked, and he still got it to drop. The ball changed directions a little bit. I thought Lawrence got a hand on it, and he was extra frustrated when he did that, and the shot fell. But the initial defense there by Williams, I get it. Hayden Brown can shoot a jump shot, but he hasn't hit many tonight. You've got to stay down and make him hit one of those rather than let him get to the basket.
Brown, a 60% foul shooter, completes the three-point play. The Bulldogs now in front thanks to this 9-0 run over the last 4.5 minutes.
The Citadel Bulldogs.
The Citadel Bulldogs. A foul here inside. It will probably go against, well, let's double check this. There were a couple bodies in the area there. As on Brady Spence, so indeed the foul does go against him, and it puts Oliver Hampton at the line.
Oliver Hampton, who had that big game against the Citadel last time out, looking for his first points. He's been quiet off the bench.
Ties it at 28. 77% free throw shooter. Mentioned he transferred in from Hampton University. And he restores the other Bulldogs league, the visiting Bulldogs. How do you want me to differentiate there, Jason?
The Citadel.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm
moving
for.
Down the jet rankings as we speak. Hayden Brown lays it in. Back and forth we go here. Final minute of this opening half, and the teams exchanging the advantage by a single point. Now it's South Carolina State's chance to answer. Lawrence. Offensive rebound for Oliver Hampton. Working against Brown in the post. Davis helps out, pokes it away. Shot clock off for the Citadel.
Well, that shot by Lawrence, I think, he hit one early, and he's not a three-point shooter, but sometimes a guy hits one early and starts to think, I can hit more of these, and now he's taken a few and hasn't been able to knock one down since, but a chance for the Citadel. Guaranteed halftime lead if you take care of the basketball, trying to add to it.
Bad pass by Moff. Oliver Hampton takes it away. A lot of contact and a chance for a three-point play. How about that finish?
Now that's a tough finish by Oliver Hampton, and Tyler Moff, they had fouls to give. He's trying to give it on the floor twice, but the official didn't call it until the shot was in the air. And if Tyler Moff could have just grabbed him, now you don't want to get a flagrant foul, but he's trying to take a foul there before the shot. And now all of a sudden a bad turnover and a bad foul, and you could be down at the half.
The Citadel takes its use it or lose it timeout. You can only carry 3 timeouts over to the second half, so the Bulldogs will draw something up here with 1.6 remaining in the first half. The jet rankings, by the way, if you didn't understand that reference, that's a callback to a previous broadcast. Don't worry about it if you're tuning in for the first time. We're glad that you have joined us. Along with Jason Kempf, I'm Kyle West. 1.6, not a lot of time, but still enough time to do something here. What are you thinking with the chance for the Citadel out of this timeout?
Well, there is a chance here. The Citadel is in the bonus on the next foul. So you can run a play where you try to have somebody screen the guy defending the player on the baseline, see if he can pick up a cheap foul. But they did check Stephen Clark back into the game. And I think if you could pick somebody on this roster, oh, it looks like he's going to inbound, so never mind. But if he was going to go up to jump and try and catch something, but it looks like they're setting up for some type of full court pass here. What you don't want to do is throw it straight out of bounds and give South Carolina State the ball under their basket.
That is true. Instead, it goes into the hands of Jones, who's
And they'll have to run
6'6".
Run some tenths off because that was touched and the clock didn't move.
.3.
And now he can't run the baseline,
right.
So that's a big difference.
He does give himself some more depth this time. Steps back. Instead is picked off by Madlock. And halftime has arrived. It was a fun start, and it was certainly a fun conclusion to the first half. Back and forth, the teams exchange leads, and at the break, South Carolina State leads by 2.
We don't need any more trick plays.
Harris is off to the races.
But we could all use more ways to save.
Touchdown!
South Carolina State by 2 at halftime. They are playing tic-tac-toe with pizza boxes, Jason. Have you ever seen or done this yourself?
No, and part of the issue was if there was pizza in the boxes, I would have no interest in running to half court. I'd just sit down and eat it while the other guy ran. But so far they've played to 2 draws, I think.
Yeah.
And the kids are exhausted. And so am I, quite frankly, from watching them.
Really am.
This is kind of like the first half here. A lot of back and forth, and nobody can pull away.
Yeah. So a draw there, a 2-point lead in the actual game. Here's some highlights from the first half. Tyler Moff, one of the rare hits from 3-point range for the Citadel.
Yeah, for the Citadel, there really hasn't been much going except for one guy. That's Hayden Brown. He's got half of their points, 16 of the team's, well, he's got more than half, 16 of the team's 30. Meanwhile, South Carolina State, they've had some contributions up and down the lineup. They've played 8 players in the first half, and all 8 have scored, including Madlock, coach's son, who's been really impressive. I think defensively, first and foremost, leading to some transition buckets for his teammates. Here he is in transition after a steal, taking it coast to coast and finishing. But the only difference in this game was a late turnover by the Citadel. They're up 1, can dribble out the clock and take the final shot, turn it over, and then commit a foul and 1. And that puts them in a small hole at the break. But considering they didn't shoot the ball well at all, I think the Citadel probably happy with where the score is at halftime, or at least as happy as you can be.
Trailed by as many as 8 in the first half, and all of those lead changes taking place there toward the end of the half. Right now, though, South Carolina State leads by 2. Halftime coverage continues in just a moment. First of 2 games today inside McAllister Fieldhouse. South Carolina State leading the Citadel, the host of the Cobb Dillon Hammock Classic. 32-30 is the score here at halftime. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. We took a look at some of the highlights from the first half a moment ago, and looking at some of the numbers from the first half presented by Roper St. Francis. As you might expect in a back-and-forth game at the end of the half, a lot of the statistics are in line as well, Jason.
Yeah, I think everything is pretty much even across the board. The big number that stands out is at the bottom of the screen with the turnovers. The Citadel with 9, including a big one right before the break. Otherwise, they'd have the lead right now by at least 1, if not more. And then points off turnovers, 7 for South Carolina State. The Citadel, again, with just 4 opportunities, but only 2 points off of those 4 turnovers for the opposing Bulldogs. And I don't know, the Citadel wants to play this game at a higher scoring clip. I think right now, if you looked at the score, regardless of what you saw in the first half, you'd say South Carolina State has this at their tempo. I don't think they're opposed to playing up tempo, but the Citadel's a team that scores with the best of them in the country. And my guess is that if Jason Roach gets a few more open looks, he's going to hit more than one of them in the second half. And that may be the difference. But South Carolina State keeps pressuring the ball and getting to the bucket. They're going to hang around, and we could be in for another finish like the first meeting between these teams, which went overtime.
These 2 teams are so even, they have the same name at the top of each column.
That's really incredible, isn't it?
32-30 is the score. Bulldogs in front of the Bulldogs. Those are the halftime stats presented by Roper St. Francis. Tic-tac-toe has concluded, but our halftime coverage is in full swing. We'll be back with more in just a moment here from McAllister Fieldhouse. First game of the Cobb Dill and Hammock Classic right here from Charleston.
They're gonna wait.
Both teams back out on the floor, getting ready for the second half. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. Glad you're joining us for this one, first half of this opening game of the Cobb, Dill, and Hammett Classic. The other two participating teams, one of them locally based as well, Charleston Southern, from just a few miles from this campus, will play against Manhattan. And then tomorrow, 2 games on tap. Charleston Southern faces off against South Carolina State, while Manhattan will play the host school in the Citadel.
It should be a couple of good games. And we talked about it the last time we were on the air, how evenly matched I think the field is. I'm excited to see Manhattan in the next game, a team that you don't get to see all that often. They're not from the state of South Carolina, coming in here from a very competitive conference, the MEAC, and we'll see what they have to offer in the nightcap tonight, and then the Citadel will take them on in the nightcap tomorrow.
Both of the coaching staffs are sitting courtside behind the baseline, scouting their opponents for tomorrow, and of course they'll play tonight after the conclusion of this one. Second half just about to happen. Jason, first half, how would you assess the keys to the game presented by Pepsi?
Well, I think South Carolina State, from that perspective, hasn't necessarily controlled the glass, but they have held their own certainly, and they've had a few more looks than the Citadel has, and they've had better looks inside the paint. It's a 16-14 advantage for the Citadel. But again, if the Citadel's not knocking down three-point shots, owning the paint isn't necessarily as important. So I think South Carolina State does have to control the paint, assuming the Citadel shoots it better. In terms of valuing the rock, not a ton of turnovers on face value, but certainly more than South Carolina State has committed, with the Citadel's 9 turnovers. And then front court foul trouble. They've avoided all foul trouble except for the guy in the front court in Stephen Clark. He had the first 3 fouls collected by the Citadel, and we'll see whether they go with him to start the second half or maybe slow play it a little bit. It looks like he's seated and ready to check in to open the second half, but that'll be something to watch certainly with as aggressive as South Carolina State has been. How long can Stephen Clark avoid picking up foul number 4?
And the stat behind the stat, talking about those turnovers, as you look at this stat as well, very similar to the first half. And again, if you missed that earlier when we were talking about the first meeting between these two teams back at the end of November, these teams combined for 89 points in the second half alone. So it was a fun second half in that one, as the teams were tied at 77, and ultimately it was a game where the Citadel won in overtime 91-79. To revisit that point about the turnovers, 9-4, certainly -5, not ideal for the Citadel, but it's what happens after those turnovers. A lot of live ball turnovers by the Citadel, as South Carolina State leading points off of turnovers 7-2, but even more concerning for the Citadel, 11-6 in fast break points. South Carolina State has had a lot of fast break buckets off those turnovers. Davis misses the first attempt of the second half, and here comes South Carolina State ready to push it again. Jones, the floater, rebounded by Clark.
And both teams miss a pretty good look to open up half number 2.
Brown cuts through. Moff leaves it for Davis. Brown finds Clark. 10 to shoot. Tough shot falling away. And South Carolina State will have it.
And that's the move that Stephen Clark uses when he catches the ball on the perimeter. If he's not going to shoot, he drives and spins back to the opposite hand. Now with 3 fouls, that's a little bit dangerous, because for a moment you're taking your eyes off at the help side defense. That's an easy way maybe for South Carolina State to slide in and pick up a foul. And now maybe to help protect Clark, a zone to start the second half for the Citadel.
South Carolina State works it in, gets it out to Krosky, his 3 off the mark. Another rebound for Stephen Clark. Appeared in just 8 minutes in the first half. Brown misses from distance. Now Jones. Wide open, Rashawn Edwards. Offensive board for Krosky, and a foul. And this one will go against Davis.
Quick substitution for South Carolina State, getting Oliver Hampton back in the game. A slow start for him, and then At the end of the half, he really made some hay, 5 points and 4 boards.
Edwards air balls into the hands of Roach.
Somebody is going to score here in the second half. I promise you that.
That's your bold prediction?
It is.
Okay, well, we will wait and see.
I'm rarely wrong when I make one of those bold predictions.
Here's Davis. Long look at it. Nope. And a rebound for Madlock.
Don't hold your breath, Kyle. It's coming.
Three-pointer for Krosky, and he makes you a profit.
Told you. Eventually you get feet set, in rhythm, open shots. At this level, they're going to go down. And now we see zone for the first time from South Carolina State. Looks like a 2-3. Want to not just settle for passing the ball around the perimeter, get to the middle part of the free throw line, touch the paint, and that'll collapse the defense and open up a lot.
Roach, quick release, splashes it through.
If you'll remember, I also said he's going to make at least 2 in the second half, and that is off to a good start. Now, I'm not making bold claims, just correct ones. Potentially.
You're doing okay. Doing a great job cherry-picking the ones where you're correct.
Easy.
There's Krosky from the corner.
3 3-point shots for Krosky. And the lead extends to 5. The Citadel has been able to get right there, not over the hump here early in the half.
Tapped out along the baseline. 19 to shoot. Bigger Bockham pacing the sideline, watching his team right now. Cold shooting day, and also negative numbers on the turnover battle, and that's going to add to it. Roach stepped on the sideline as he had the ball.
It feels like I've seen that a ton in college basketball this year for whatever reason. Games I've watched on TV and in person where guys are having a tough time staying away from the sideline. I don't think they changed the court, so maybe people's feet or shoes are bigger these days. I don't know.
Yes, I do remember when they did change the three-point line there a few years back, and that was a problem early on, and it was foreseeable. But you're right. This year, it's a little bit more perplexing why that's happening. Madlock, both of his feet between the arc and the sideline, and he hits one from distance, and now South Carolina State matches its largest lead of the day.
And if you were going to tell me South Carolina State is going to make more shots from behind the arc than the Citadel, you've got to feel pretty good about their chances of winning the game. And that's exactly what they've done to this point.
That post-entry pass to Brown is knocked away by Oliver Hampton. Here's Edwards, high off the glass, and a loose ball foul will go against Oliver Hampton. Good job running the floor for the postman after he caused the turnover, but he went over the back trying to grab the rebound.
And I don't think he had to. He was taller than the guy that he was trying to go over for the rebound, Brent Davis, but it looked like down low he kind of nudged him with his hip, and that knocked Davis off of his balance. He couldn't go up for the rebound, and the official caught it. I think right now, as much as you're struggling, you've got to get the ball to Brown in the post or let him drive and draw help or finish himself, because going one-on-one other places hasn't worked.
That's also an option.
I mean, that works. If you're running Roach off of screens, and he left his defender in the dust, sort of feinted to the right baseline, came around the screen to the left, and he doesn't need long to get his feet set, and he'll drill it nearly every time.
Started the game 1 for 7 from three-point range. He's hit both of his three-point attempts this half, and now a chance for 3 the traditional way. South Carolina State looks to push it back to an 8-point margin when we return.
Without all the drama.
South Carolina State breaks its huddle, led by Tony Madlock. This program, you mentioned at halftime, look at those highlights, his son TJ on the team, but Tony leading this program. He was a fine player at Memphis. Went to the NCAA tournament a couple times, the NIT in the years they did not make the NCAA tournament. Now he's leading the South Carolina State program, looking for win number 6 on the season, and his squad at the moment has the biggest lead for either team tonight.
And it would have been interesting, I think, to see where T.J. Madlock ended up. He was a guy being recruited. His dad was an assistant at Memphis, and then his dad took the job at South Carolina State, and I think that decision became a lot easier. But I think he could have ended up at a school that's maybe in a little bit more of a, what you'd call a competitive group of 5 conference, but I think he's happy with the decision right now, leading the way.
Clark inside, cuts it to 6. TJ, a freshman on this team, of course, hailing from Memphis. That's Tony Madlock's hometown as well. Three-pointer is good for Davis, and now it's a 9-point margin.
And again, I think the Citadel, for the most part, is okay with the shots being taken by the guys that are taking the shots for South Carolina State, but they just won't miss.
To your point, that's only the 5th three-pointer of the year for Davis. Roach. Rebound for Higgins. Davis. Paused for a moment, now drives. Spins. Taken away by Edwards. South Carolina State looking for a double-digit lead. Here's Jones through traffic. Goaltending is called. Clark, the guilty party, and South Carolina State has stretched this to an 11-point lead.
They're certainly letting them play. On the other end, there was plenty of contact, I think, instigated by both parties. Brent Davis lowered a shoulder a little bit, and then it was ripped away by Edwards. But, man, we've had good basketball without a ton of stops for free throw shooting.
Quick 5-point outburst for State in the last minute. Contributing to this lead, that's a goaltending on the other end. Davis hit that ball after it had already hit the backboard out of Brown's hand.
I can't remember the last time I saw 2 goaltends on back-to-back possessions
That's a good
on the
point.
other side.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah. Very valid point.
Every once in a while, man.
They were both accurately called as well. Want to make it 3 in a row here?
No, not particularly.
No, you're not gonna prophesy that?
No.
Here's Madlock. Offensive rebound for Williams, and an offensive foul follows.
He got the charge call, but that is a brave move by Stephen Clark with 3 fouls, because now I think it was pretty obvious that the offensive player lowered his shoulder, but a lot of times as a defensive player, you're deciding next time he comes into me, I'm falling down, and you're going to embellish it, and sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. And that very easily could have been foul number 4. Now, I think it was the right call, but you put yourself in a spot where the official's probably going to blow his whistle.
Clark has been limited due to foul trouble. Hayden Brown to the line. He's still 1 rebound shy of a double-double. 18 points, 9 rebounds, though. An impressive day for him with plenty of time to add to it.
And until these last 2 possessions, he really hadn't been involved, it felt like, in the offense. They had certainly looked to run Roach off a couple of screens, and Roach knocking down some triples is going to be the quickest way to get back into the game, but this is the guy you can't go away from for too long.
Free throws were big in that first meeting. Of course, anytime a contest goes to overtime, you can always look back and say, boy, this could be the difference or not. Anytime it's a one-possession game, you can point to little small things. But that certainly was big for the Citadel, a team that for the season only shoots 63% at the foul line. In that first meeting, they went 16 for 18 from the charity stripe and won that game in overtime. Here's Brown spinning and swatted away by Davis.
He just couldn't quite get a handle on the basketball initially, and that led to him ending up in a triangle of defenders. He wanted a foul called down low on Madlock. But again, they've been letting him play all day, and you can't really complain too much. It hasn't gone in favor of one of the teams. It's just been physical basketball.
Brown lays it in.
Man, he plays below the rim for the most part, but it's just guys typically just a fraction too late. The on-ball defender can't get around him because his shoulders are wide, and the help side just always a fraction too late. He gets it on the backboard quick.
Davis got Clark in the air and finishes across his body to make it a 7-point game.
And Davis, again, a decent three-point shooter, but I think you'd rather have him take the contested jump shot than go by you to the basket.
This foul will go against Edwards. Ball out on the baseline. Booker Bockham calls out his play here as the Citadel trying to respond. This game was back and forth at the end of the first half. South Carolina State used a brief 5-0 run to stretch it. Now a loose ball foul, and that appears to be on South Carolina State. And that's on Madlock, so that's only his first. If that had been Edwards, it would have been his third. But instead, Edwards still with 2. Madlock now has 1.
And that was interesting. Brown isolated on Oliver Hampton, was backing him down, and they flashed a late double. The guy they doubled off of was Jason Roach, but Brown had turned the other way. That's certainly a bold idea, is leaving Jason Roach.
Pass from Higgins right through the hands of Clark into the Citadel bench.
That's going to be turnover number 13, all things considered. Again, it wasn't a live ball turnover, so not a chance immediately to capitalize in transition, but you start to chip away at a lead and then just basically give away a possession.
Madlock with some space on the baseline. Misses a floater. Oliver Hampton underneath puts it back for 2.
He just feels like kind of like a pogo stick under the basket. Just goes up and down quicker than everybody else.
Davis, 5 to shoot. He sees that, goes to work, lost it on the way up, and a shot clock violation officially against the Bulldogs. That becomes turnover number 14, and it takes us to a timeout on the floor. South Carolina State in front by 9, 11:21 to go. South Carolina State is led by as many as 11. Along with Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West. First of 2 games here this evening. We'll have both of them available here on ESPN Plus, as well as both games tomorrow. We've talked about Hayden Brown plenty today, Jason, for good reason. You can see he accounts for half of the team's output.
And they need to keep going to the well until somebody else gets hot. And I think the way he plays, you've now got 5 fouls on South Carolina State. That's the one big advantage for the Citadel right now. And he draws so much attention, whether he scores or gets better looks for somebody else. Run the offense through Hayden Brown and see what happens.
Brown pokes it away. Roach gives it to Higgins to bring it across the timeline. That's only turnover number 8 for South Carolina State, so still +6 in that turnover column for the visiting Bulldogs. And turnover right back the other way. Hayden Brown, player control foul.
And that was a risky play by Oliver Hampton going for the steal. And it was sort of like a cornerback, right? You come up empty, and now he's got an open path to the basket, except the help from Cameron Jones was there, and he took it right in the chest.
Only the first foul on Brown. Clark still with his 3. On the other side, Williams has 3 for South Carolina State. Clark blocks the first shot for Oliver Hampton, blocks the second effort as well. Moff falls down, pass off the front rim into the South Carolina State bench, and the Citadel will have the basketball out of that chaotic sequence.
Yeah, that's as pronounced as I've seen the Citadel bench. Tyler Moff, I think, got leveled at half court, and nobody saw it. Fortunately for the Citadel, it was Jamal Davis there. You saw it on the replay. Their feet certainly got tangled up, if nothing else. But in addition, lucky that didn't lead to 2 points the other way, as they had 3-on-1 coming to the right side of the floor, and all of a sudden, that ball was rolling free. If you want to see 17 people stand up in unison, that was the way to do it.
Roach takes the extra dribble, misses. Davis finds Moff. Moff is just 1 for 6 shooting today. Roach well below his season standards, 3 for 11. All of his attempts have been from 3-point range. Moff misses a three-pointer of his own. Madlock came down with the ball and fell all the way to the floor. He's called for a traveling violation. Neither team has scored in 2 minutes, Jason, and yet we have had possibly some of the most exciting moments here of the entire game during this
the most
stretch.
exciting moment for me is every time I show up and see you here as a 5-second violation is called. But, you know, the hot term in basketball last year started to become kills on defense, which is 3 consecutive stops. Both teams have done that and more, but if you don't score on the other end and you're giving up consecutive kills, nothing changes. Except that the clock keeps winding down, and that's good for South Carolina State.
That's true. Here's Edwards spinning and draws a foul on Moff. I tell you what, Jason, this would have been the day to play basketball bingo. We have had back-to-back goaltendings. We have had a half-court pass line off the rim out of bounds. We just had a 5-second violation.
We had tic-tac-toe. Now, that has nothing to do with it, but.
We did have halftime tic-tac-toe where they played to 2 draws.
What are we missing?
3-second violation. Those
That's
are hard
true.
to come by these
That
days.
is true.
We haven't had a technical foul, thankfully, yet.
No flagrants.
None of that. Boy, this took a bad turn. Maybe it's better we didn't play bingo.
Well, we weren't. So, I mean, that's fair. Like, we don't have our card out.
No. Edwards misses the free throw. He was 5 for 6.
Oh, another one. One of my, wild predictions coming true.
That's
Check
true.
it off.
We did do that.
Twice.
Yeah. You only get to fill the square once, though, Jason. Is
Right,
that how you
I'm aware.
win every time? Do you fill in the spaces multiple times when it happens?
Well, you can have multiple cards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how the professionals do it
Man,
at the old age home.
I have so much to learn. Baseball bingo I'm pretty good at.
There you go.
Here's Hayden Brown. That's off the mark. A lot of traffic. Brown battling for it, but it's off of him last and out of play. So South Carolina State will have the basketball, still leading by this 53-44 margin. Now, neither team has scored in 2.5 minutes. And for the Citadel Bulldogs, that's nearly a 4-minute drought.
That doesn't happen very often for one of the highest scoring teams in the country. We're still in Charleston, right?
Yes.
It feels like we're in Big Ten country right now. I mean, there is just mass chaos under the basket on every possession.
Yes. This is Cameron Jones. Working against Roach. Gets the shoulder clear, puts it in, and now South Carolina State has a double-digit advantage.
Well, they've had plenty of chances to run away with this game, but the defense by the Citadel and some missed shots from South Carolina State, to be fair, has kept the Citadel close. And this is going to be a big couple of minutes here. It can go one way or the other for the Citadel.
Roach knocked down by Madlock. Everyone appears okay. Madlock helped up after his second personal.
If he could have, the only thing I think Roach would have changed is once he felt that contact, maybe even just flip it semi in the direction of the basket. Now it's tough when a guy lands basically hip to hip with you and takes you out, but you never know. Maybe just whip it in the direction of the basket and you might get 3 free throws.
Moff to Clark. Skip pass. Brown for 3. Jones poked the basketball away from Davis. His momentum took him out of bounds. He tried to jump back in, but he was still established as out of bounds, so thus the Citadel keeps it with 20 to shoot.
Gives the Citadel yet another opportunity. I mean, it feels like this half has gone the way of South Carolina State in a big way. The Citadel still hanging around.
Jones tried to save it, but his foot was on the line.
Should I go get that?
I don't know. That did. That could have been your final space on the bingo card. Broadcaster tries to play with the basketball during the game.
We haven't had a player crash into the table yet.
Why would you suggest something like that? If you end up making that prediction come true.
I don't mind.
Okay. Well, you're held liable. That's all I'm saying.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't predict it. Moff on the baseline finds Clark. Pretty feed, and that is what breaks through The Citadel ends a drought of 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
A team that averages well over 85 points a game is stuck on 46.
Davis takes it away from Jones. Misses. Hayden Brown following. Comes up short. Third chance, no. Fourth chance for the Citadel, yes. And a timeout taken by South Carolina State as the Citadel has 4 unanswered. A little bit of life in the crowd here in the Cobb Dillon Hammett Classic. 7:51 to go.
Hot dogs, better with Pepsi.
Crowd a moment ago with the Citadel chant. Again, some life here in the building. The Cobb Dillon Hammett Classic. The Citadel now within 7. It's been all South Carolina State in the second half in terms of building the lead up. Now the host Bulldogs looking to chip away at it and make a comeback effort.
And that last possession, the steal and then the bucket eventually by Hayden Brown. In the span of 5 seconds, Hayden Brown went from 22 points and 10 rebounds to 24 and 13, and I'm not kidding.
That's a good point. He has a double-double today, 24 points, 13 rebounds. One of only 15 members of the 1,000-point, 500-rebound club in school history. He's already closing in on milestones above that. He's guarding on the ball right now against Williams, who gives it up, now gets it back, faces up against Hayden Brown, spins past a double team. Clark got a piece of that, and Williams powers through for the bucket.
He's been really impressive, Williams, underneath the basket today. He's had a couple of tough finishes through contact.
Davis guarded well by Madlock initially. Then Davis tries again, and the help defense from Lawrence. He comes over, blocks the shot, and here's South Carolina State once again wanting to lead by 10 plus. And the Bulldogs do. Cameron Jones pushes it to 11.
Jones, the leading scorer, coming in for South Carolina State. He's been sort of quiet, but he hasn't forced anything. And when he takes shots, it seems like he hits them.
Moff answers, only his second field goal of the day for 5 points. He does have 6 assists during his time out there, leading the way in that column, but shooting just 2 for 8 from the floor.
We mentioned Rudy Fitzgibbons not playing today. The backup point guard led the Citadel in scoring in the first game between these teams, and they've missed his scoring punch off the bench.
Lawrence blocked by Clark. Madlock, nice hustle play, lays it in.
And that feels like maybe one of those back-breaking plays. Moff had the ball after the blocked shot and just lost it behind his back, and it led to a layup the other way.
Moff held that pivot foot somehow. Clark now to the line to shoot 2. Clark shooting 2 when we return. South Carolina State on top by 11 with exactly 6 minutes to go.
Nightfall edition.
The Citadel breaks its huddle. Stephen Clark will shoot 2 in just a moment. 6 minutes to go in this first contest of the day, along with Jason Kemp. I'm Kyle West. A reminder, we will have coverage of the nightcap here in this event. The Cobb Dillon Hammett Classic will feature Manhattan and Charleston Southern about a half hour after the conclusion of this one. Jason, 6 minutes to go. What's on your mind?
Well, the Citadel is either going to have one of two things happen, preferably both if you're Coach Duker Blockham, and it's get stops on the defensive end and finish that with a rebound, or they're going to have to not come up empty on too many more of the possessions down here.
You can see the Citadel well below its season output offensively.
Now the Citadel is in the bonus. They'll shoot free throws going forward, and they still have a couple of fouls to give. So they can be aggressive like that.
Madlock had it jarred loose from behind. Brown finds Clark, right back to Brown. Nice play by Clark. I think he realized he was farther from the basket than he anticipated and was not prepared to take a dribble. So he actually reacted very quickly by thinking to pass it back to Brown.
It was impressive not to travel on that play, much less find his teammate.
it just looked like a travel waiting to happen. Now a turnover on the baseline. Oliver Hampton gives it back to the Citadel.
And this is kind of that little push you needed, get the crowd into the game. If you can get this back to within 4 or 5 by the under 4 timeout, you're in a good position.
Starting 5 out there for the Citadel with Moff running point. Roach to Moff. Picked up by Jones. Davis. Too strong. And it goes out of play.
Tyler Moff, I think, thought about taking that 3 6 different times, and he was measuring up the distance he had over the defender's arm, and it ends up with a 3 by Davis after the pump fake. Not a bad look, but again, in bonus, Hayden Brown having another one of those Hayden Brown nights. Get him a touch at some point.
Edwards uses the ball screen from Williams. Now Davis reverses to Madlock. Pull up over the top of Davis. Good for Rashawn Edwards.
He hadn't scored much, just his second basket. That's a big one.
Brown driving. Absorbs some contact. Rebound for Williams. Jamal Davis's shot contested there by Clark. Now Cameron Jones on a drive. Another rebound for Hayden Brown, his 14th. Finds Davis. Baseline drive. Lays it in.
It just feels like South Carolina State's been a little bit quicker to the loose balls today, and they've got some bounces certainly, but they've hustled after it. Madlock with the ball, having a big game. 16, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. And they've had some guys hit big shots down the stretch, including this guy with the basketball a little bit ago.
Edwards lost it briefly. Now retrieves it and fires a 3.
Oh, that's when you know it just may not be your night. When a guy fumbles the ball halfway across the court, picks it up and hits a 3.
Edwards had 2 points all night until this recent stretch. 5 points in the last couple trips down the floor. Now Davis on a drive, taken away by Jones. 2-on-1. Jones lobs it for Madlock. South Carolina State has stretched it to 13.
And now if you're South Carolina State, just don't leave number 11 in white, and you're taking away really the best chance the Citadel has to come back.
Brown, a capable three-point shooter as well, but he's strong, and the Citadel's shooting woes continue. Now 5 for 26 behind the arc. That is less than 20%.
Well, South Carolina State has made more three-point shots, and they've done it shooting far fewer. And that is kind of the straw that stirs the drink for the Citadel, is making shots from behind the arc.
Edwards finds Davis. He's fouled going up. Foul is on Moff. Brings us to our final media timeout. South Carolina State, largest lead, and a chance to add to it further after this.
Sure, including the price.
Less than 2.5 minutes to go. South Carolina State has stretched the lead to 13, led by 2 at the half, 32-30. And that was after the teams exchanged the lead a couple of times in the final minute. But this second half, South Carolina State has steadily pulled away. A couple of quick runs by the Citadel, but South Carolina State has always had the answer. Now, Davis, 67% free throw shooter, trying to split the pair. And he does.
Well, South Carolina State's had a lot of experience in tight games. 4 of their last 7 divided by 4 points or less, and they're 3-1 in those games. And the Citadel game was a loss. Now, it ended up by quite a margin, but it was a last-second shot by Brett Davis that sent it to overtime. So they've had experience in these situations over and over again, and by and large been successful.
Wakefield's 3 off the mark. South Carolina State coming off of an overtime victory. That was 90-88 on Saturday. Winners of 4 of their last 5 in total. And in control here, Davis from the corner. Came in with 4 3-pointers all season, and he has a perfect 2 for 2 tonight.
Just contributions up and down the roster from this South Carolina State team. And I think an issue that the Citadel is having right now, it's probably the question that we came into at the beginning of the year wondering, right? You had last year sort of a 3-headed monster. Hayden Brown, Fletcher Abey, Caden Rice. And 2 of those guys transferred out, talking about Rice and Abey. So you had the preseason SoCon Player of the Year coming back, but who was going to be the second part of that scoring punch? And I think the obvious answer was Tyler Moff. And he's been really steady this season, stuff in the stat sheet, but he hasn't been a guy who's going to go off for 20 on a given night. That guy has been Jason Roach. But when he has a tough shooting night, who becomes that second and third option? I think maybe that's still a question that you're trying to figure out the answer to. Stephen Clark's certainly an option, but he ran into foul trouble again. I think the Citadel would like to play South Carolina State in a game where one of their big men didn't foul out or be hampered by foul trouble all night, and they just haven't been able to do it. But give South Carolina State credit. They've been the better team so far this evening.
Higgins, an emphatic block by Davis.
It feels like every player who's played for South Carolina State has had like a 3 or 4 minute segment where they've kind of taken over the game and dominated the action, and right now it's Davis.
Davis, a freshman, listed as 6'9" out of the Virgin Islands. He's had an impact in this one. 3 blocks to go along with his 11 points. Turnover number 19 by the Citadel.
Now, we talked about it. One of the keys to the game today was take care of the basketball, and that's been an issue all day for the Citadel. And again, even with Clark being in foul trouble, you didn't have Rudy Fitzgibbons, who was so big in that first matchup. You're probably going to have to figure out the same type of thing tomorrow.
Higgins takes it away. Hangs in the air and finishes.
That was an impressive finish.
Yeah.
He drew the contact, and I mean created the contact, and somehow flipped that over the rim with some heavy English.
Yeah.
That was like a pool shot, a billiard
It
shot.
really was. From our angle, it appeared as though his body was under the cylinder of the rim. I'd be interested to look at that from the angle high above, but from floor level, that was a heck of a finish for Higgins. Inside, Williams comes up empty. Final minute, though. South Carolina State on its way to 6-8. Higgins 3 off the mark. And the Bulldogs, the Citadel Bulldogs it is, on their way to a 6-4 mark. Both teams will be in action tomorrow.
And the good news for you is our next game has 2 teams with different nicknames.
Yes, that'll help out a lot. Yes. South Carolina State will play Charleston Southern tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and the Citadel against Manhattan tomorrow. Nice finish by Williams. Ahead, Spencer has it knocked away. Owen Spencer had that knocked out. The shot clock did not reset after the made basket, so they'll fix that. The shot clock should have been off. So even though it shows 0 and the horn sounded, 3.6 to play. Again, as Jason alluded to, our nightcap coming up, Manhattan and Charleston Southern. About a half hour from this one, we'll have that coverage live on a different feed on ESPN Plus as well. Owen Spencer off the mark, rebounded by Williams. And South Carolina State comes away with a 74-57 victory in the rematch. These 2 teams not from the same conference. South Carolina State from the MEAC, the Citadel from the SoCon, but they meet twice this year and split the contests.
Well, the Citadel, by missing that last shot, finishes with their lowest point total of the season. Previously, it was a 58-point effort on December 1st against UNC Asheville. So I think I kind of talked about as we were winding down, the Citadel has questions still to be answered, even after a pretty solid start to the season, and that is who is number 2 and number 3 if Jason Roach isn't shooting the ball incredibly well. It's not going to happen often, but just didn't have the touch today. But all in all, I think the main takeaway from this game, really impressed with South Carolina State. They had depth, they had ball pressure, they played good defense, and they turned it into the offense the other way. And I think it's helped that they've played a ton of close games, but they were not shocked. They were not thrown off when the Citadel made runs at home. They got it done.
South Carolina State shoots 46%. The Citadel shoots only 17% from three-point range, 34% overall. South Carolina State, a winner by 17 today. We're glad you joined us for this one. Hope you could join us for the next one as well. For Jason Kemp, I'm Kyle West.